They laughed at his dreams. They said his efforts were pointless. But destiny does not announce itself. It unfolds quietly. This is the story of a young man who chose patience, courage, and hard work, even when no one was watching. Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. In a small village surrounded by dry land and forgotten roads lived Ibrahim, a black African boy whose dreams seemed far too large for the narrow paths that shaped his childhood. The land around him was harsh and stubborn, cracked by the sun and slow to reward effort. Opportunities were as rare as rain in the dry season, and most people learned early to expect very little from life. But Ibrahim was different. Before the village rooster crowed and before the sky changed from darkness to gray, Ibrahim was already awake. While others slept or waited for the day to carry them along, he rose quietly, washed his face with cold water, and stepped outside to breathe in the stillness of dawn. In those silent moments, he felt closest to his dreams. He worked wherever work could be found, on farms, in small workshops, carrying goods for traders, helping elders who could no longer lift heavy loads. His hands were often rough and sore, his clothes worn thin by time and labor, yet his eyes carried a fire that refused to dim. When his work was done, Ibrahim did something few boys in the village cared for. He learned. He borrowed old books with torn pages. He listened carefully when travelers passed through, asking questions about places he had never seen and lives he could barely imagine. He observed how people spoke, how they planned, how they survived. He treated every encounter as a lesson. The villagers noticed his seriousness early on. They shook their heads when they saw him walking with a book instead of resting. They laughed when he spoke about changing his future. Some called him foolish. Others said he was wasting his youth. Why work so hard, they asked. This village has decided everyone's future already. But Ibrahim did not argue. He had learned that dreams do not need permission. Inside him lived a quiet determination that words could not explain. He did not believe life owed him anything, but he believed deeply that effort mattered. Every drop of sweat, every hour of discipline, every sacrifice planted something unseen beneath the surface. There were days when hunger gnawed at him, days when exhaustion made his body ache, days when he watched others enjoy small pleasures he could not afford. On those days, doubt whispered loudly. Yet even then, Ibrahim kept going. Not because he was certain of success, not because he had proof that his dreams would come true, but because giving up felt heavier than failure. Failure, he believed, could be learned from. Giving up felt like surrendering the person he was becoming. So each morning he rose again. Each evening he reflected quietly. Each year he grew stronger, not just in body but in spirit. Unnoticed by many, Ibrahim was laying the foundation of a destiny that would one day surprise everyone who laughed at him. And though the village could not see it yet, something powerful was already taking root. A future shaped not by luck or noise, but by patience, resilience, and unwavering effort. As the years passed, Ibrahim, a black African young man, grew into his strength quietly. There were no celebrations to mark his progress, no applause to recognize his effort. His life moved forward in silence, shaped by routine, discipline, and determination that few ever noticed. By daybreak, Ibrahim was already in the fields with the farmers. He tilled dry soil under the burning sun, repaired broken tools, carried heavy loads, and planted seeds that would take months to show results. He listened carefully to the elders as they spoke about land, seasons, patience, and survival. From them, he learned that real work demanded endurance, not shortcuts. When the sun stood high and others rested, Ibrahim continued. He ran errands in nearby towns, helped traders unload goods, and fixed what others had abandoned as useless. Every small task became training. Every difficult moment became preparation. But when night fell and exhaustion weighed heavily on his bones, Ibrahim's work was not done. By the dim glow of a lantern, he opened borrowed books with missing pages and worn covers. He studied slowly, repeating lines until they made sense. Some nights, sleep defeated him, and the words blurred before his eyes. Still, he returned the next evening, determined to understand more than he had the day before. No one praised him for this. There were no teachers encouraging him, no mentors guiding his path, no crowd cheering his discipline. Life tested him often. Opportunities appeared, only to disappear without explanation. Promises were made, then quietly broken. Jobs ended suddenly. Food was not always guaranteed. There were nights when hunger kept him awake, his stomach aching as he stared at the ceiling, wondering how long he could keep pushing forward with so little to show for it. On such nights, doubt sat beside him, whispering that effort without reward was foolish. He watched others choose easier paths. Some found quick success, temporary comfort, or shortcuts that brought fast results. For a moment, Ibrahim wondered if he was falling behind while trying to do things the right way. But something inside him refused to change course. Through hardship, Ibrahim began to understand a truth most people learn too late. Progress doesn't always make noise. Growth often happens in places no one looks. Strength is built in silence. Character is formed when no one is watching. He realized that applause could distract, but discipline would sustain him. And so, he learned to measure success differently. Not by recognition but by improvement. Not by praise but by consistency. Each skill he mastered quietly added weight to his future. Each sacrifice strengthened his resolve. Each disappointment taught him resilience. Though the world remained indifferent, Ibrahim continued to build himself patiently, brick by brick, believing that one day, the work done in silence would speak louder than words. And even if that day never came, he knew this much. He was becoming someone he respected. There came a season when even Ibrahim, a black African young man known for his quiet discipline, began to question the very path he had chosen. It was not a sudden collapse, but a slow, heavy weight that settled on his heart day after day. He watched as time moved forward and others seemed to move faster. Friends who once laughed at his seriousness now appeared to be thriving. Some had found quick opportunities, connections, or shortcuts that brought immediate comfort. Others seemed to stumble into favor without effort. Their lives looked lighter, easier, more rewarding. And Ibrahim felt invisible. No matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he learned, his life appeared unchanged from the outside. The same dusty roads, the same modest room, the same long days and quiet nights. People stopped mocking him openly. Not because they believed in him but because they no longer noticed him at all. That hurt more than laughter. At times, Ibrahim questioned whether discipline without recognition was foolish. He wondered if patience was simply another word for delay. He wondered if dreams were meant only for those born closer to opportunity. The doubt was subtle but persistent. One night, unable to sleep, Ibrahim walked beyond the village and sat alone beneath the open sky. The stars stretched endlessly above him, silent and distant. The world felt vast, and he felt painfully small within it. For the first time, he allowed the question to escape his heart. What if all this effort leads nowhere? What if I am sacrificing my present for a future that does not exist? The question frightened him, because for a moment he did not know the answer. His hands trembled slightly as he stared into the darkness, remembering every early morning, every skipped meal, every lonely night spent studying while others rested. The thought of it all being meaningless pressed heavily on his chest. This was the edge, the place where many turn back. But as the silence deepened, Ibrahim felt something rise within him. Not certainty, not confidence, but resolve. A quiet voice inside him reminded him that his effort had already changed him, even if the world had not yet changed around him. He realized something important. If he stopped now, he would lose more than a dream. He would lose his peace. Continuing was no longer about proving anything to others. It was no longer about success or recognition. It was about staying true to the person he had worked so hard to become. So Ibrahim made a choice under the stars. He chose to continue not because the path was clear but because it was honest. Not because success was guaranteed, but because surrender felt like betrayal of his own growth. He returned home that night with no applause, no promise of reward, but a renewed commitment to himself. He understood that doubt was not failure, it was part of the journey. What mattered was not the presence of doubt, but the refusal to let it decide the outcome. From that night forward, Ibrahim walked with quieter expectations and stronger conviction. He learned to let others pass him by without resentment. He learned to measure progress internally, not publicly. And though doubt had nearly won, it did not define him. Instead, it strengthened him. Because sometimes, the greatest victory is simply choosing to continue when no one would blame you for stopping. Change did not arrive with noise or celebration. It did not come wrapped in applause or announcements. There were no crowds to witness it, no moment that felt dramatic enough to mark history. Change came quietly. One ordinary morning, Ibrahim received a small opportunity, so small that many would have ignored it. It was not glamorous, carried no title, no promise of comfort, no guarantee of success. It was simply work. Honest, demanding, and uncertain. Some people advised him to wait for something better. "This is too small for your dreams," they said. "You deserve more than this." But Ibrahim had learned something others had not. Destiny does not always arrive fully formed. Sometimes it comes as a test disguised as insignificance. So he accepted the opportunity with humility, not pride. He did not ask how visible it would make him. He asked only one question: "Can I give my best here?" From the first day, Ibrahim worked as if everything depended on it. He arrived early. He stayed late. He paid attention to details others overlooked. He treated responsibility as sacred. When mistakes happened, he corrected them quietly. When challenges appeared, he adapted instead of complaining. He did not rush results. He focused on doing each task well, believing that excellence had a voice of its own. Weeks passed. Nothing dramatic happened at first. Life remained ordinary. But something beneath the surface began to shift. Those around him noticed that Ibrahim did not need supervision. They noticed his reliability, his calm under pressure, his ability to solve problems without seeking praise. Slowly, doors began to open. Not because he knocked loudly, but because people trusted him. Opportunities multiplied quietly. Responsibilities increased. His influence grew without announcement. People started recommending him, not because of his words but because of his work. The same voices that once doubted him now watched in silence. They could not deny the evidence before them. Ibrahim did not celebrate publicly. He did not speak of victory. He remained focused, aware that this moment was not the destination, but a bridge. He understood now that breakthrough is often invisible at first. That consistency outlasts talent. That discipline speaks louder than ambition. And though few realized it, this small, unnoticed turning point was reshaping his future. The seed planted in years of silent effort was finally breaking the surface. Not with noise, not with pride, but with undeniable growth. Years passed. Time shaped Ibrahim gently but firmly, like water carving meaning into stone. The restless boy who once walked dusty village roads with oversized dreams had grown into a man marked by depth, patience, and quiet strength. When Ibrahim finally returned to the village, there was no announcement, no convoy, no celebration, no need to prove anything. He did not come back wearing success like armor. He came back carrying purpose. The village looked the same: familiar faces, cracked walls, dry land, and forgotten roads. But the way people looked at him had changed. Not because of what he wore or what he owned, but because of what surrounded him now. Calm, assurance, and earned respect. Ibrahim noticed the things others overlooked. The young boys with curious eyes and limited hope. The tired farmers trapped in survival cycles. The quiet women carrying dreams no one asked about. Instead of speeches, he created opportunities. He built pathways where none existed. He trained hands that had only known struggle. He invested time where others invested only words. And he did it quietly. He remembered what it felt like to be ignored. He remembered the weight of effort without recognition. So he gave people something more valuable than advice: belief backed by action. The village began to change slowly. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But steadily. Jobs appeared. Skills were learned. Confidence returned to places where it had long been absent. Those who once mocked Ibrahim now watched with humility. Not shame, understanding. They realized the boy they dismissed had been growing all along, just beyond their attention. And Ibrahim held no bitterness. He walked with quiet confidence, not pride. He spoke gently, not defensively. His success did not make him distant. It made him present. That was when the truth became impossible to ignore. Destiny is not loud. Does not rush. Does not demand applause. Destiny rewards those who stay faithful to the process when no one is watching. Ibrahim's journey was never about arriving quickly. It was about becoming deeply. And what he became was greater than what he achieved. Some destinies unfold slowly. Not because they are weak, but because they are being built to last. Because what endures is worth the wait. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video. Subscribe to this channel so you won't miss our next interesting story filled with love, lessons, and unforgettable moments. Until our next story.